So let me say one thing first, and then I'll ask you your identification. There are 3 combinations that have a terrible time typing, and they all involve 6 and 9. The first is the 6 will never, rarely, maybe in 40 years, I have had 10 people that test as a 6. The reason for that is the defense strategy of 6 is you must conceal anything you feel uncertain about, insecure about, or that would make you less credible. There are a number of reasons. So you're just not going to recognize that fear is your motivator. People that feel fear generally feel anxiety, and they feel the need to have control to end their anxiety or get away from what's causing them anxiety. But the counterphobic is just as anxiety prone. They're just going to go right into it to get it over with. So they're going to provoke the problem. Wait, are you having a problem with me? What's going on here? And question. They're going to start questioning, challenging, and they'll get faster and more energized. Whereas the 8 is like, let me get this straight. And they slow down because they're a gut type. So you're telling me that John said this to you on this day in this way? Now, what would John say? And in a way, the 8 is setting you up to catch you in a lie, because the 8 has the fear of being manipulated. So the only way you can check out if someone's doing that is to set up a scenario that would enable the 8 to catch someone in their process of deception. But are we always right? Absolutely not. But that's the way the defense strategy works. So when someone says, oh yeah, that person's hot-tempered and really emotional all the time, and they're an 8, maybe they are, maybe they're not. But when the 8 is seeking control for their own reasons, now remember, all 9 types want control. Just how are you going to go about getting it is what's important. They're going to slow down, and they're going to want to tell you what they think if it's really important and they think it's like threatening in some way. But when they really want to know what's going on, they're not going to ask you in a kind of, oh, so this happened, and oh, okay. It's going to always say something to the effect, let me get this straight. And they're going to make the type say again whatever they've said, and it pokes holes in that tendency for most of us to just loop things together, like everyone says whatever. Oh, okay, so you're saying everyone says that. Everyone. Mm-hmm. Who's everyone? And it's just like the inquiry process. And it's like the Spanish Inquisition in a way, only it's not like a 1 about right or wrong. It's the 8 trying to figure out where they need to shore up, like what is vulnerable. And they'll never use the word vulnerable, by the way. That's totally a function of knowing the Enneagram. 8s just know they don't want to be weak and pathetic. We don't say, yeah, I don't want to be vulnerable. Or if an 8 says, I'm feeling vulnerable, a lot of times a 6 or a 4 will go, oh, yeah. Well, that's not that big a deal. Wait, I just told you I was being vulnerable. And when the 8 first learns the Enneagram, it's really hard to say that you're vulnerable about something. Mm-hmm. So this leads back to Enneagram type. Oh, the other combinations are if there's a 6 and a 9 together, it can be harder to determine the type. So they do handle the test in a similar way, but there are important distinctions. But the one that is also confusing is someone that's, let's say, a 2 with 6 and 9 in the tritype, they won't be as clearly a 2 or whatever type they are. So if they're a 4 with 6 or 9, they'll have troubles. If they're a 3 with 6 or 9, they'll have troubles. They'll have the most trouble because those are 3 adaptable types. So sometimes it could just simply be that you have 2 indecisive types with one that wants to be appealing. And so it's easy to mistype. But as all things go, there are definitely types that know their type when they first hear it, even if it's incomplete. But if they understand the defense strategies, they'll always type correctly. And that will be the 1, the 4, the 5, the 7, and the 8. We don't have doubts about it. Once we understand, we're like, yeah, I can kind of do that. We might not want to admit it. But the other types are like, do I or don't I? Or what are the circumstances in which I do that? And it can get confusing, especially if you've read a lot of stuff that is not addressing the defense strategy. You can't just look at the passion. You can't just look at the fixation. And you can't just look at one of those categories. You have to look at all of them together. The core fears and the defense strategies are the most important.